Hi, I'm Girli. My album Matriarchy is coming out on the 17th of May, and I'm in conversation with the New Age magazine. I think this album is, I suppose, meant to be a demonstration of the huge roller coaster of being a human, but also being in your 20s, and you do go from periods of completely understanding yourself and feeling so clear in your identity and self-worth and sense of self, and then the next day or week you're like, I'm so lost, I don't know who I am, and that's like pretty normal for everyone, all my friends, everyone I talk to in their 20s / in life is like, you just flip-flop between those two states. So I think some of the songs are about figuring out who I am, some of the songs are very much like, I know who I am, this is it, and I think I kind of want people to go for a little journey while they listen to the album, because I definitely did when I was writing it. Bloody hell. I think this album shows a huge kind of maturation, if that's a word, in myself as a person, and then also Girli. I mean, I think I've come into my own, and the album is very much about healing and identity and finding identity and strength as a woman and as a queer person. So it'll be really different and new for people who have known my music and listened to it for a long time. And then people who are just discovering me, I think they'll be surprised when if they delve into my discography and be like, oh, she used to make this kind of music.
I was going to say, for me, something that I love is, because I was around the Girls Get Angry Too era, by the way. Shout out to
Oh, gee, yeah.
What's really interesting is you kind of flip-flopped in and out of mainstream to underground music.
Yeah, I think I've always wanted to make pop music. Lyrically, conceptually, I've always, I suppose, written stuff that's a little bit out there for mainstream pop, but I don't know, I love pop music. I'm a huge pop fan, and I love how that genre has grown so much. And I think it's trying to pinpoint exactly what it is so difficult, because also each different song could belong to its own genre. I don't know, definitely on this record, there's so many influences in there. So I don't know, I think people can judge for themselves. Everyone is kind of genreless now, really. Well, maybe not everyone, the interesting people.
I was watching an interview you did earlier on, a month ago, and you were talking about the album. And you said that you wrote this in what? You wrote the album before you realised you wrote the album.
Yeah, I was just writing so many songs, and I think one of the reasons why it ended up resulting in the album it is, that I'm really proud of. For me, it's my best music I've ever made, in my humble opinion. And I think that was because I completely released the pressure of there being a destination to writing a song, instead of going into the studio, which I had been doing a lot, and thinking, how do I make this song successful? How are people going to view this when I release it? Is this going to do well on TikTok? Is this going to be played on radio? How do I make a hit song? All of which I think were distracting me from actually making music that I wanted to make. I kind of was I'm just going to write music and assume that it's not going to come out. I'm just going to write songs, and they're probably just going to end up on the shelf, and no one's ever going to listen to them. And I think that's resulted in me writing some of the best music I've ever made, because it was completely unjudged, I guess. I was yeah, I'm just writing this for me, basically, because I need to process all this stuff. And then, I was these songs are pretty good. Maybe these could be an album.
You've been releasing music for 9 fucking years.
Yeah, 8 years, yeah.
Really young.
Yeah. I was so young. I'm 26, yeah. Yeah, I started releasing music when I was 18, so yeah, mad.
Crazy.
Mad.
But I think it's really nice because you've reached this point of understanding, probably from going through it, that a lot of people missed for so long, and it leaves that talent out, is just releasing for you.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Fully. And I feel that's kind of robbed from a lot of artists, is that thing of why did you start doing this? Because you were bullied and music was your only escape. That was my situation. Or music is the only way that you can feel like you can express your emotions, or like because you feel so free on stage, like we forget these things along the way, and it becomes, oh God, like my TikTok didn't get enough views, or like I'm stressed about, you know, the video views, or pleasing my label, or how many tickets am I selling, and you kind of like forget, you lose along the way the reason you did it, and I guess you forget to like pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
Just knocked the mic. You forget to pat yourself on the back for how far you've come. There's a song called Poser where I'm like, I spend all day on my phone. What was that one? I spend all day on my phone but miss messages from my friends. So it's like I'm on my phone but like I'm not communicating, I'm not engaging. I'm still isolated because I'm just like scrolling or doing stuff that doesn't make me feel like connected to people, basically.
Kind of writing process for you, and who are you trying to reach with the music?
So I think like it's the classic, I feel like my therapist has definitely said this to me, my mum's definitely said this to me, like if you really want to tell someone who you're angry or upset at, like if you really want to vent at them, like just write it down instead. Like write a letter and then burn it. Or like if in a few days you reread it and maybe you don't want to say that anymore, maybe you don't have to, maybe you can find the peace within yourself. And like that, for me, a lot of the songs on the album, you know, were that letter that you write and then you burn. It's like, oh, I really want to say this to this person, but it's not going to bring me any like peace, so I'm going to write about it. And that's for me, you know. Yeah. So like there's a song on the album called Tokyo, which is basically me talking to you know, someone I just had a breakup with, about how I wish that I'd chased them, you know, they were traveling, I wish I'd chased them and like asked them to get back together with me, but I knew that that wouldn't do anything, so I just wrote a song imagining I was doing it, and you know, that was like so healing to write. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't actually send that text or like get on that plane, basically. Wrote a song about it instead, so yeah.
But it must really take you back when you're listening to it.
Oh my God, fully. Yeah. And it's also really cathartic to, months down the line, actually sometimes send those songs to the person you wrote them about. Because, and not in like a masochistic or like, you know, spiteful way. Like a lot of the time, you know, I sent a lot of the songs on this record to my ex who I wrote them about, because I was like, I'm actually at peace with what happened now, and you know, I would really love you to hear how I was feeling at the time. Obviously I didn't just like dump them in her inbox. I was like, do you want to hear them, you know? But it's the same as like I played, a lot of the songs are about, you know, my current girlfriend, and I sent them to her. You know, some of them are about like how massive the crush was I had when I like met her and stuff, and you know, like sometimes the songs speak a lot better than words, basically. Yeah. I think like visually for this album I was very inspired by history, and sort of like, I mean, I became really fascinated by history and the history that we're taught in schools and in the mainstream, as opposed to the history that's been erased. And I was really into, you know, I was visiting art galleries, and I was realizing like all of the art here is like done by cis white men, and it's of mostly cis white men, or it's, you know, and there's, where are all the queer folk, where are all the people of color, where are like the women, the, you know, that weren't like wives or so of the manor, you know, and I don't know, I became really fascinated with, I suppose, like the Renaissance period and historical, sort of the 1700s, 1800s, and then from there I kind of wanted visually to interpret that in a sort of like futuristic, utopian kind of way. And so for the Matriarchy video I wanted to present this idea of, you know, this like Sapphic palace mansion in a sort of like unclear time, you know, in history, of, you know, where these women are just enjoying, you know, their own sexual like liberty, and the funny thing is, like, it obviously feels like, oh, this is so far-fetched, but it's not. Like, that existed, you know. There's so many stories that have been erased. Like, LGBTQ plus people have been around forever, and, you know, their stories just aren't told. Really long answer, sorry, but so visually, I think it's like retelling history, but from a queer feminist perspective, and I guess the kind of history that I would love to see in books and TV shows and movie and history class. And, you know, there's so many. I love period dramas. I love, like, you know, historical romance novels, but I've always been so desperate to see myself and my own love life, like, represented in those. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do with these videos. And, you know, like, it was for the music videos of the album singles, I kind of tied them together, and the central imagery was the idea of a picture frame, and it's on the album cover, and it's in, you know, it's kind of a motif in all the music videos. And that idea was, you know, retelling stories and artwork, and I guess painting the images that were burnt or destroyed or erased, you know, haven't ended up in galleries today, or that collect dust in someone's basement somewhere. Like, you know, I suppose retelling it for everyone whose stories were erased. But also, I guess it was kind of like a metaphor for, like, here's this picture frame, this painting, and it's me. I'm painting my own story. I'm painting my own image. Like, I'm taking back control of my own image, basically.
So good. I love that. Also, I have to say, like, whoever did the styling for the album cover, oh my god,
so good.
Like, for the framing, just everything. It's beautiful. The tree.
Yeah, I have the most amazing team when it comes to the visuals, and it's actually all, yeah, it's all women. The team is all women, yeah, and they're amazing. I mean, yeah, I was so blessed, like, that the shoot of the Matriarchy video and the album cover and all of the artworks for the songs, I've never felt that joyous and supported and, you know, like, surrounded by incredible women. And it was awesome because I was like, wow, this makes sense that the album is called Matriarchy and I'm surrounded by so many matriarchs, you know. That was really cool. I think for me, like, I struggled a lot in the first few years of my career because I was telling these stories of my life, but I was surrounded by people in my team who didn't reflect that at all, didn't reflect me, didn't reflect my fans. They were mostly, like, older men. And when I was dropped by my first label and I kind of, like, changed my whole team, I realized I want to be surrounded by people who I see myself in, who I, like, feel supported. And also I want to create opportunities for people who find it really tough in this industry because it is still a boys' club. So, you know, especially for touring, my whole crew are women and non-binary, and that was really important to me to have it be very diverse. And I think also, you know, we have each other, we lift each other up. We go into situations and festivals, and, you know, venue staff who are mostly men can be very intimidating, and we all have each other. You know, we empower each other. I think representation is just so important. And I knew that if I'm telling this story, but then my whole team are men, like, it's not authentic, is it? Yeah. So, yeah, the representation is still so measly. But I think the change is going to come from artists, because that artists are who, you know, make the industry, and the change is going to come from artists putting their foot down and being like, this is who I want on my team, like, you know. But also festival bosses, label bosses, like, you know, I think in the background, like, the team behind the scenes has to change massively.
So this question is for anyone feeling like their identity acts as a barrier to success. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have?
I'd say harness that identity, because if you feel like you're an outsider or you don't, I guess, mirror the majority, then there's going to be so many people who feel the same way. And like the majority of music fans, like the majority of people who, I mean, I'm talking specifically about music, but majority of music fans, people who buy tickets to shows, who buy merch, who listen to music, buy records, whatever, are women, LGBTQ plus people, people who are actually, I guess, would feel like, oh, the music industry is not for me, actually. There's, especially because of the internet now, you can find your people. Like, there's so many people on this planet, like you will find your audience. So I'd say like harness the way you feel different and like use it.
I think that's actually one of my favorite answers. You're so good at like just doing it.